Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Introducing Microsoft Teams Premium, the better way to meet now, featuring our special guests, Zoe Wilson and Luke Evans. My name is Patrick, and I am a sales manager here at Syskit. And today we are joined by Zoe and Luke, our stars of the day, and my colleague Carlo, who will be showing you a demo of Syskit Point later on. Many of you already know us as a company, but for those who don't, let me briefly introduce you to us. Syskit is a software development company founded more than 13 years ago. We develop products for Microsoft 365 governance and security, as well as for SharePoint on-prem administration. We currently have more than 3,000 customers around the world, ranging from small businesses to large corporations with hundreds of thousands of employees. We currently offer 4 products, including our award-winning SPDoc kit for SharePoint on-prem documentation, as well as Syskit Point for Microsoft 365 governance that we will be demonstrating later. Before we start, just a few housekeeping rules. All registrants will receive a recording of the webinar within a few days. After the presentation, we will have a short demo of the Syskit Point M365 governance and management platform, showing you how you can keep control over your Microsoft Teams to continuously protect sensitive data, easily review internal and external user activities, and prevent data oversharing on potential breaches. After that, we will have a Q&A session where Zoe and Luke will answer any questions you may have. Please use the Q&A function on the right side of the screen to ask your questions throughout the webinar. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our special guest. Zoe Wilson is a senior director at Evanade and is an experienced public speaker. Zoe brings together a customer-focused solution background with several years of technology leadership experience and over 15 years of experience working with collaborative tools such as SharePoint and other Microsoft technologies. She is passionate about solving business problems in an innovative and exciting way. Luke Evans is an experienced senior solution architect with over 16 years of experience within the private and public sectors. Luke has extensive experience in architecture and full end-to-end delivery of cloud digital transformation programs. I will now give a warm welcome and turn things over to our presenters. Zoe and Luke, are you ready?
We certainly are, Patrick. Thank you.
Let's see how ready we are. I'm hopeful, all being well, that you should see my screen is the important thing. I think it looks good to me. Now, yeah. Awesome. Thank you very much for the delightful intro. Me and Zoe will do our best here is what I would say. First of all, thanks very much for having us. We're here today to talk about introducing basic Microsoft Teams Premium, the better way to meet now. Now, what do we look to cover in the session? First off, we wanted to we typically, whenever me and Zoe present, we always we talk about very briefly who we are. Now we had a great intro there, so we might not go over the full kind of intro. We want to talk a bit about what does work look like today? What does the landscape of work look like today? What is Teams Premium over, say, just Teams? And what does it mean for me? What are kind of the features? What are the main offerings that Teams Premium has to go? And that's probably really one of the key points of today's session, is really talking about what are the features and functionality that this can offer me. And finally, what can I do to better prepare for Teams Premium? So say it was something I was interested in. The question then is, what can I do to better prepare? Like we said, we'll have a dedicated Q&A section at the end that me and Zoe can help answer any questions on. We'll be delighted to help answer some questions there. Now, first and foremost, I won't bore you to death. Solutions architect. I worked, I don't know, about 16 years in technology. I did 6 years at Microsoft. Since then, consultant/architect. I'm a Microsoft MVP in M365 apps and services. My title is unfortunately not nearly as fancy as Zoe's, so I'll probably hand it over to her. But we have been presenting together for a number of years as the one.
Thanks, Luke. So I'll keep this quite brief as well. I'm not going to say my job title because it is a mouthful, but Luke and I actually had the pleasure of working together for 5 years until I moved to Avanade, and we've done loads of presenting together, both for clients when we work together, but also on our journey to becoming an MVP and then as MVPs. One of the things that we are doing, which we were told it was okay to mention, in May, if any of you are in the UK and you're interested in getting started with community speaking and speaking at conferences and that kind of thing, the two of us and one of our friends are actually running a a workshop for new speakers to help you get started. So if you go to communityspeakers.tech, that will give you all of the information that you need to know. Now, if we move on, we're going to start by looking at work today. So before we dive into Teams Premium in all its glory, we wanted just to have a look at how work has changed in recent years. And I mean, it's fair to say, the last 3 years have been quite disruptive. We've experienced a once-in-a-lifetime change in how we work, and there's absolutely no going back to 2019. There's a lot of talk about hybrid work, but really hybrid work is just work. And what we really need to focus on is how we empower today's connected and distributed workforce with the technology that they need to be able to work easier and more flexibly. And if we start at a high level, research has shown that about 87% of people say that they prefer to stay remote at least half the time. And I count myself firmly in that camp. And actually, when Luke and I first started working together, Luke was already in that camp several years ago. And actually, yeah, it's way more than half for me. The impact of travel is quite significant.
And let me just interrupt for just 1 second. You wouldn't tell from the kind of look and feel of how I am presented compared to my photo that I enjoy remote work. I think it's fair to say I have got the lockdown look still is the one. So yeah, I'm fairly in the same camp with Zoe on that one.
Yeah, the hobo look. So 81% of leaders are changing workplace policies to offer greater flexibility to people. And then we've got 54% of leaders who fear that productivity has been negatively impacted since the shift to remote work. And actually, if you look at the work trend index from last year, you've got 87% of surveyed workers saying that they're productive at work, but only 12% of leaders are fully confident that their employees are productive. So there's this huge misalignment in expectations that's happening. Then if we move on to look at some of the collaboration trends. Since the start of the pandemic, we've seen an absolute explosion of Teams meetings at Full Our Diary, with more than a 252% increase in weekly meeting hours, which is just absolutely staggering. We've got virtual and hybrid meetings continuing to take up the lion's share of the time that we spend at work. And when you think about all of the other distractions as well that we've got, the increase in emails, all of the different tools that we need to use, the increasing complexity of the work that we need to do, it becomes really important for organizations to have an integrated solution that gives people advanced meeting capabilities that can help us take that meeting culture to the next level. And if you think about how much time we spend in meetings, it's really important that meetings are productive and that they're efficient and that people feel included. And that's partly what we'll get into with Teams Premium. And then lastly, we'll just look at Microsoft Teams overall. So the growth of Teams has been quite staggering. Before the pandemic, I think it was about 25 million daily active users of Teams. And last quarter, Microsoft announced that this has now grown to 280 million, which is just absolutely phenomenal. I updated this slide earlier because it said that we had over 500,000 organizations who are using Teams. That number is now well in excess of 1 million. So again, it's just absolutely staggering. And I think 91% of the Fortune 500 companies are using Teams as well. So we're spending more and more time in Teams. We've got more meetings, we've got more collaboration, we've got more chats, more pings, more distraction, more demands on our time. And that means that when it comes to meetings and how we run and manage those, it becomes ever more important that we've got something that can help us do this effectively.
Cool. And the other stat that I updated on this one, so me and Zoe often look at the stat and see how Teams is doing in relation to kind of the growth. And the other key one that really stood out to me that was of interest was that Microsoft 365 has roughly 345 million seats, or paid seats, I should say, since April 2022. And Satya said it was moderate growth since then. So it could be anywhere upwards of 400 million kind of paid seats is what we're looking at. So it's absolutely staggering the amount of people using this technology. Now, before we dive into Teams Premium, I wanted to give a very quick baseline. I won't spend very long, but I just wanted to talk about Teams today and really what is the features that we're making use of. What is the baseline? We kind of want to set the scene really just so you have an understanding of what Teams Premium offers over and above Teams that you get with your standard kind of license at the moment. Now, the key areas that I've called out are relatively straightforward and simple, and I'm hopeful most people on the call have an understanding of them. But if not, the first thing I would probably call out is probably Meet. So we can meet meetings in Teams, we can host them, we can be audio, video, or screen sharing, very similar to the kind of technology we're using right now. Calling, you can have one-to-one calls, we can have many calls, or we can, one-to-many and many-to-many calls. So voice meetings, again, telephony. Chat, okay, real-time messaging. So the ability, again, you can see it's pretty simplistic, it's pretty consistent across the board, but it could be a one-to-one chat, it could be one-to-many, it can be many-to-many. It's that real-time messaging and chat. And that's kind of, they were more traditional, and on the right is where it gets a bit more interesting, is what I would say, where Teams really help to excel. And that's really the collaboration elements. So the ability to share files, co-author and edit content simultaneously, the ability to see everyone's changes in real time, communicate with them as you do it. So making use of some of the features that we've seen on the left. And I mean, this one, ideate in the whiteboard app, work together in channels and more. It really is that collaborative experience. So whether you do that just via, working in documents, whether you use that in Teams and channels, the idea is that we can come together and work together on a common goal or purpose, I believe is really what they sell it as. Then on top of that, the area that most of you might not have the most experience in, but think about the tools, files, maybe dashboards that your organization is already using on a day-to-day basis. Apps in Teams allows us to kind of integrate them right into Teams, so we can bring that functionality in. So I know Microsoft have a large number of apps that we can bring in. I know, Zoe, some of your favorites, Viva, for example, we can bring those in. We can bring kind of SharePoint in. We have a bunch of native integrations already there, and it's exposed via apps. On top of that, you can bring the third-party apps in, maybe Salesforce and so forth. As long as the apps are there, Teams can help bring that in. Now, that's the kind of baseline. That's, meetings, calling, chat, collaboration, and less or so apps probably. But what does Teams Premium offer is the one. And that's where it gets more interesting, is the one. So I had a quick look and try to understand exactly what it is. But I think for me, Teams Premium, it really focuses on 3 key areas, and it's really looking at making sure every meeting that you run or host, we can make it more personal, or we can personalize it more, we can make it more intelligent and more secure. Now, I know that sounds kind of marketing, but we will dive into how it achieves that in a bit, is the important thing. On top of that, so personalize, actually, let's dive into them briefly, and then we'll get into it in a bit. But personalize, we can extend our company's kind of culture and brand across our meetings. So we'll talk about how that's achieved in a bit. Intelligent, at a high level, we're really looking to make use of AI. And I know it's all the rage at the moment, but we want to make use of AI to basically make the meetings you attend or possibly miss, to make them more productive and impactful. And the miss one's really quite interesting to me, and how we can use AI to do that. Secure, probably my favorite one. Anyone that knows me or has seen me speak before, I like a lot of security is the one. So this one's really quite interesting to me, and I'm excited to talk about that a bit later. But applying advanced meeting protection to better protect your meetings. And there's some really powerful stuff, some really awesome stuff we can do with that. Kind of to the side of that, we have things like advanced webinars, and we'll talk about, we have the standard offering at the moment in Teams of running webinars, but advanced webinars offers basically a higher level of advanced capability. And we'll talk through exactly what that is in a bit. And the final one, advanced virtual appointments. I'll be honest, I'll hold my hands up. I didn't really understand the concept of virtual appointments until I really started diving into the technology and what it had to offer. I would say I'm reasonably well versed. We have the standard kind of appointments, but this offers the extra level of kind of, management analytics, and flexibility for your users to give them a better virtual appointment experience. But we'll talk about that and what does that mean in a bit. Now, the first one we wanted to talk about was the personalization. So that the real thing that we're thinking about is on the previous slide. We broke down the key areas that we had, and we're looking to kind of dive into them and what does that actually mean. So for me, we want to look at premium features to first make your meetings more personalized. And there's a few key ones here, and I'll run through them briefly as what I would say. Now, I know this is a wall of text, so you have to forgive me, but this one kind of helps set the scene for a lot of this. So I think the first thing we would typically say is not all your meetings are typically created equally. There may be a meeting that you have, which is a regular one-to-one catch-up. It may be that you're having, maybe it's a project discussion, maybe it's a topic of sensitive nature. The important part is that You know, it could be a more casual one, or it could be more sensitive in nature. Not all meetings are created equally. Again, not just in terms of sensitivity, but it could also be the, you know, the format. You may have a town hall session as opposed to a, you know, a collaborative meeting. The key point is meetings differ in size and shape, and kind of what settings need to apply to them is the important thing. Now, I think one of the things that we typically find is, certainly I do, is I don't spend a great deal of time customizing my meeting settings prior to going into a meeting in Teams. And really the important thing here that meeting templates offer is the ability to offer a consistent meeting experience. And meeting templates can be used to enforce settings or set defaults on them is the important thing. So each template setting can be locked, so the meeting organizer can't change it, or can be left for the organizer to change it if needed is the one. And I think, you know, we've got on the right all the different things we can kind of control with it. But the great thing is you can have a preset list of templates across your organization that your IT admin can control. And that would basically define defaults for this that can either be locked in or can be suggested, really, is the key thing there. Now, I won't delve into all of these, but just suffice to say, if you're familiar with Teams, you know, chat, we can control if chat's enabled or disabled, who can present, you know, are reactions allowed, is recording going to take place automatically, is it going to notify when callers join and leave, and really, you know, I think the important thing there is trying to enforce automatic kind of settings for common scenarios in your organization. Now, just to showcase that, you can see here, it may be, and they've got some good ones here on the demo, but you can just go to your top right, new meeting, and you can choose from a variety of different templates that you've set up basically. So a client call, a brainstorm, a help desk. These are some common meeting scenarios where meeting templates can kind of come into its own. The next piece of functionality really is, I think one of the key things is typically when you go to a physical office, it may be that you sit down and in the physical office, you're going to have a corporate look and feel that there's going to be around the building is the important thing. You're going to see that company culture, company branding, and at the moment, we don't really have that experience in Teams is probably the best thing I would say. Teams Premium, and I will come to a kind of gotcha in a minute, but Teams Premium allows us to define backgrounds and company colors and logos is the important thing. So you can see here the experience of kind of a customized theme on screen. We can see the background, we can see the customized colors, the logo, and you can see it on the desktop and also on the mobile, the experience on both. So it's the ability to define that custom theming up front for all your meetings. Now, this was originally available in the Advanced Comms SKU, and it's kind of just been moved over into Teams Premium. So I believe it was available for a period of time in the Advanced Comms SKU is the one. So this one's been around for a bit, but now it's bundled into Teams Premium. Next one. Now this one is more about, you can have custom and bespoke backgrounds that you can import and use in Teams. So I know I've seen a lot of funny ones out there, certainly people in outer space, in Star Wars and such is the ones I typically come across. But for this, the idea here is that we can set a corporate background, and it doesn't matter what kind of device you're on, it's defined automatically is the great thing. So whether I'm a BYOD user, whether I'm on my, on a corporately managed device, the idea there is that we can basically have corporately defined backgrounds that our users can choose from. And again, it's helping with that company branding kind of experience across the board. I know certainly in organizations that I've worked for, it can be quite often that we have to send the file around, load it in as a background, or it may be that you have to load it in using group policy or Intune policy to actually get those files in the right place, or point users to go download it. And it's not really anything that's mandatory is the important thing. Again, I'm pretty sure this was in Teams. It was actually available in Teams for a period of time, but it was moved to a premium feature when it went GA in February.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that, Luke, isn't it? Because we use group policy when we work together to actually push these out to the organisation, but it wasn't a perfect solution because it required the device to be domain joined for that group policy to take effect. So for contractors or people on BYOD, they never actually got the custom backgrounds. So being able to do this in the admin center at that admin level is actually really powerful, because you can make sure that it is distributed to everybody on every device. And
again, I think it's that personalization aspect. That's one of the key things that they're aiming for here. And that helps add to that personalization. So personalized meeting templates, personalized meeting branding, and personalized meeting backgrounds is another one. And the final one, I'll profess to this one, I don't actually use together mode that much, so I don't know if Zoe you can add a bit more color to this one. But the same concept exists here, guys, is that we can apply kind of corporately branded together modes. So for your organization, you can have branded or custom together mode backgrounds is probably the best way of putting it. So
yeah, and this, you know, this one, I mean, it could be quite interesting for you know, an organization who has like a strong physical presence to actually create together mode backgrounds that mimic being in their office, for example, so that, you know, people get that corporate feel even if they're not physically in the office. Is this another example of something that was available already and has been put into premium?
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah. So I had a quick look at kind of when we actually had the message center note that says, you know, Teams Premium's coming. This was available to everyone until 30 days after Teams Premium general availability. So it was available, and then they kind of took it away, which kind of leaves a sour taste in the mouth. But I'll be honest, I didn't actually make use of this feature. So this one I can live with is the thing. Now, at the moment, you can't initiate together mode from a mobile device, which we see on the left, but it would have to be initiated from the desktop. But if you come in after that, then it'll work on your mobile device is the important thing. And that's kind of the personalization one. The next one is intelligence is the one, and we'll hand over to Zoe here to talk about intelligence.
Brilliant, thanks, Luke. So we're going to look at some of the features that can help make meetings more intelligent, and the features that we've got in this category are the live translation of captions and the intelligent recap. So if we move on first of all to the live translation of meeting captions, I work in a big global organization, and I have to say that, you know, a lot of people in some of the countries that I work with across Europe, for example, probably speak English as well as I do. I certainly wouldn't try attempting to speak to them in a foreign language, because I don't have any foreign language skills. But there are certainly some parts of the world where their English might not be as strong. So this is actually a really good feature that can help make those meetings more inclusive. And we've seen AI everywhere over the last few weeks. It's everywhere. It's helping with lots of different types of challenges. But being able to use live captions within meetings and automatically have those translated into the language of the attendee is incredibly powerful. Some organizations spend a huge amount of money on services that do this type of translation for them. So the fact that this is built into Teams is brilliant. It also has accessibility benefits as well, but, you know, making it easier for those people who are not native language speakers to be able to follow along. This is another one though where this was something we already had, and when Microsoft announced Teams Premium, they actually took this away and rolled this into the premium features. And personally, this is one that I was really frustrated about, because you know, I've presented loads of sessions on Teams and presenting in Teams and how to use the features, and for me, when you're presenting to multinational audiences, the ability to do this was so powerful, and the fact that they've put this into a premium license I found incredibly frustrating. But for those people who are looking at Teams Premium, this is a fantastic feature.
And Zoe, I'll put you on the spot here. How many languages does it support? What am I looking at?
Quite a lot. The list is quite extensive.
I'll be honest, I had the answer. It currently supports 40 languages is the one. Yeah. So apologies, Zoe, I put you on the spot there. I already knew the answer, but I figured it's a good talking point. So yeah, 40 languages. There's a list online, but it's quite extensive, certainly.
Okay, so then let's look at Intelligent Recap. So what Intelligent Recap will do is automatically generate meeting notes, recommended tasks, and highlights to help you get the information out of your meeting that's most important to you. And if you're on the invite but you don't join the meeting, you'll still get access to this information, which is incredibly powerful. It's going to give you suggested actions with owners as well, so that important tasks are not missed. You'll be able to search the transcript, and it's going to, you know, for people who the graph knows that you work with, it's going to give priority to, you know, the things they say and do in your meeting, because it thinks you'll be most interested in those as well. So it's giving you that personalization in the Intelligent Recap. This isn't available yet. I think this has still got a little bit of time before this one comes out, but this will be really powerful when it comes. And as part of the recap, there are a couple of other features that I'll talk about, and then I'm just going to take a minute to talk about this and the M365 Copilot as well, because there is a lot of overlap there. Moving on then to AI generated chapters. So what this is doing is using the PowerPoint content in your presentation to auto generate chapters based on the slide content. And in the recording, it's going to allow you to be able to quickly navigate through to the different slides to find the content, to find what people were saying at that particular time. Similar to how you can add chapters if you upload a recording to Stream, it's the same concept, but it's basically pulling the divider points from your slides to build that. And this is something that is available now. It was available in Teams already, but again, it's being pushed into that Teams Premium license. And then personalized timeline markers is another thing that was available that has now become Teams Premium. What this is doing is giving you personalized meeting highlights. So it will show you when you spoke during the meeting, when another person spoke, when you joined the meeting, when you left, when someone else left, so that you can quickly jump to those key occurrences through the meeting and get to the place that you need to be. Now, for all of these things to be able to work, you have to actually record the meeting. Or in the case of the intelligent recap, transcription will give you that. But for the timeline markers and the intelligent recap, you will need to record it. And that can be a problem in some organisations where they have policies to not allow recording of Teams meetings, for example. So that is a bit of a governance hurdle that might have to be overcome to get the full value out of Teams Premium.
And Zoe, could I ask, what is the technology that powers this? Is the next one that I was going to ask. It's an AI of some description. Do you know which one it is?
I'm not sure which. Have you got the answer to that as well?
It's GPT. They don't specify any more than that. So I'm guessing ChatGPT in some shape or form is the one.
Yeah. So we haven't put a slide in to talk about Copilot, but I was messaging Luke earlier this afternoon and I said, actually, maybe we should have done, because last month Microsoft announced M365 Copilot, which has lots of capability that's coming into Teams. However, and there is some overlap from a meeting perspective as well. So with Copilot, you'll be able to do things like follow meetings. You'll be able to ask the little Copilot box that you get at the side of the meeting to summarize the meeting for you if you join late and tell you what you've missed, or to ask it to clarify something that was said. So there is some overlap. At this point, it is not clear whether any of this capability will come into Teams Premium, whether the Teams Premium capability will continue to exist separately. So for now, we've just focused on Teams Premium, but I think it's definitely a case of watch this space to see what happens as Microsoft progress with their release plans and more information becomes available.
Awesome. And I think for me, this one looks so cool. I'm very excited to play with it is the thing. I think the fact that it can kind of show you who you spoke more closely to and pull that into the personalized timeline markers is pretty darn cool. So it also, you work closely with Zoe, go have a look at what she spoke here, and they'll prioritize that as the one. And that's kind of the intelligence piece for the moment. It's really around it's the live transcriptions, the intelligent recap. The next one is probably my personal favorite, and that's really around advanced meeting protection is the one. A few of these really stand out to me. I'll probably come to them in a bit. Certainly the sensitivity labels one is probably my favorite is the thing. But there are a few good ones here that I want to run through as the thing. So these are really around kind of helping make your meetings more secure is the one. And the first one off the bat is end-to-end encryption. So what we mean there is really, it's the important thing is basically encryption from basically the source to the destination. So it would be from me to Zoe. Now you may say that that's encrypted already, but it's not quite the same as the one. So end-to-end encryption means that you can't basically, Microsoft can't inspect the traffic. It is fully encrypted end-to-end is the important thing. Now at the moment, the data between, basically, if I was making a call in Teams and Zoe was making a call in Teams, the data would still be encrypted in transit, so to Microsoft, and it would be encrypted in rest, so our chats, our messages, and so forth, they would be encrypted by Microsoft 365 encryption as they live in Exchange or in Azure is the important thing, depending on how all those messages are. Now, this means that everything is end-to-end encrypted, and this would probably be for very sensitive subjects. I think that the problem with this one is what would I say? I think it's going to be very specific use case scenario is the important thing. The reason I say that is
can you give us an example of a use case where you think this might be needed?
Oh gosh, so you're really testing me now is the thing. I think I mean, maybe it's something that's incredibly corporate sensitive, so maybe highly specialized or high maybe deep technical knowledge about a product, how it works. It may be like an organizational change that's incoming. It may be something that you don't want, basically. And this is what I would say is that because it's end-to-end encrypted, some of the limitations that you're going to see is that you're not going to be able to maybe see the data that's in a compliance search is the important thing. So I don't want to say you want to talk something off the record. This is probably the scenario that you would use it in is the one, because it's not going to be available to you in e-discovery. It's not going to be available to you in the compliance logs because it's end-to-end encrypted. Even Microsoft can't look at the traffic, even if they wanted, or your admins is the important part.
Yeah, and it was a bit of a trick question, to be honest, because I couldn't actually think of a use case where I'd need that level of encryption over and above what you already get within M365.
The thing that's interesting for me is it seems as a way, I'm on corporate equipment, I'm working on corporate resources, surely we should be able to for purposes of legal regulatory compliance, we should be able to see what was discussed or have a trail of that is the thing. So I mean, it really seems to leave no trace is the important thing. So it's a tougher one to come up with, and I be honest, I don't know a specific use case that you'd use this one just yet, unless it's an incredibly sensitive topic that you don't really want any trail left behind is the important thing. And because of that high level of sensitivity or the high level of kind of things, it introduces a number of issues is the thing. So a number of features are basically unavailable when you use this end-to-end encryption, things like recording, live caption and transcription, call transfer, call park, call merge, call companion, transfer to another device, or add a participant to make a one-to-one call, a group call is the one. So you have to bear that in mind, kind of what you're looking at is the thing. So
yeah, it's possibly like a merger and acquisition scenario or something like that, where you've got a very small group of people in the know.
It could well be, and yeah, it would have to be. I think my recommendation here would be a very specific or very well-defined kind of use case or scenario that you'd want to use this technology. It's great having it available. But it makes life more difficult from a security, compliance, regulatory, and actual functionality way of kind of doing this is the important thing. Next up, all right, this one's absolutely killer. This is too cool for school is the important thing. This one absolutely blows my mind. So when we're sharing our screen, we can now use Teams Premium to watermark the content. And you might say that's cool, but what you can see here on the screen is it will overlay a watermark of your username is the important thing. So if this was to be leaked for some reason, not saying that myself or Zoe would leak any content, but the important thing is it would be stamped with our name is the real important thing. So you can see that might be very, very powerful. Now, again, I think, a scenario that we might use it, very sensitive stuff that can't be leaked is the important thing. You want to watermark that and make sure no one's, copying it, take screenshots and so forth. Again, this comes with another series of kind of, I guess, limitations. You can't use it for all scenarios is the important thing. So recording, PowerPoint live, whiteboard, together mode, and large gallery. Now that's not to say that it won't come, but at the moment that's unsupported as it is. They don't have that functionality. At the moment, it's available on desktop and mobile, but you just need to make sure you have the latest version out there. There is not just features, but unsupported platforms as well for this function, and that's the web client is one, so you have to use a desktop or a mobile. It's not available in VDI, I think, at the moment. Teams Rooms, the support is coming soon there, and a few other ones is the important thing. Now, yeah, I mean, this is an awesome piece of kit is the one, because certainly I know, a common scenario is people taking screenshots of a meeting and kind of just taking that and running with it. Now, the next one is controlling who can record. So at the moment, you know, it's typically, I think that it's not really, unless you control it via policy, that's controlled at the organizational level is the important thing in terms of recording. Either you can record or not, and it's controlled on, I'm pretty sure, a meeting policy at the moment is the one. Now, this offers you further granularity over and above kind of what's available in Teams at the moment, and it allows us to control who can record in a meeting up front is the important thing. So we've got organizers and co-organizers, organizers and presenters, so we can control better who can record.
Yeah, if you just stay on that image for a moment as well, you can actually see here, you know, this is the options menu where you can do things like turn on that end-to-end encryption or apply the watermark to content or to video. And you've got kind of the meeting theme option as well from that branding and personalization perspective.
Yeah, and to be fair, I missed that one, so apologies is what I would say. Now, those are the kind of key ones that help build up to it, but the real one for me is probably this is my favorite, is the one. So they have introduced the sensitivity labels for meetings is really this is my, probably, if you had to choose one feature of the whole lot, this is probably my favorite, is the one from a security perspective, is the one. Now, what is a sensitivity label, you may ask? It's a tag that's customizable. It's stored in clear text and is persistent. Now, this has been around for some time in 365. I think it started, I can't remember what it was called before, Azure Information Protection, but that was kind of the first one. Moved across into sensitivity labels. And the great thing is, certainly when it's stored with a document at the moment, it lives with the document is the important thing. That travels with that. Now, why is that important? It's important because a sensitivity label becomes the basis for applying and enforcing data protection policies. So for at the moment, we can mark a document as internal only. We can apply encryption on that document and make sure that it's only accessible to, say, myself and Zoe, or people within the organization is the important thing. Now, at present, sensitivity labels can be applied to a document or an email. So you standard Office documents. We can apply it to groups, so M365 groups, sites, SharePoint sites, or Teams, and we can control that they can change the settings on those group sites or Teams. It's also available in Azure Purview, and now with Teams Premium, we can extend that kind of protection to meetings is the important thing. Now, that's all in good, but what does that actually mean? So I can apply a sensitivity label to a meeting. What actually happens? Again, it's very similar to kind of the meeting template, but it can change a number of settings up front is the important thing. So say if something was, a highly, the good scenario here, it might be a highly regulatory meeting or strict compliance needs, you might have a label, a sensitivity label for that. So if it's highly confidential, you may want to automatically turn on video watermarking is the great thing. So for me, this is, again, we can use Teams meeting templates and sensitivity labels together to kind of offer, well, one, a better meeting experience for people that are setting these things up, and a more secure meeting experience for people that are using these is the important thing. So yeah, we can extend the protection that we have currently in documents, emails, group sites, and Teams, and take that and apply it to meetings as well. So this is my favorite one, out of the one. And again, what we've got here is just the admin screen to kind of talk you through what it looks like when you're setting up a sensitivity label. Again, this is the same kind of one that we have for when setting up a standard sensitivity label, so items, group sites, and so forth. But we can now see that the meeting settings are available as well as part of that sensitivity label. So we're taking the protection and extending it further. And finally, you can see here, this is a sample of a sensitivity label for an action, or in action, I should say. At the top, you can see that it says highly confidential, internal only. We can see because of that sensitivity label that's been applied, it's automatically enabled end-to-end encryption in this scenario. So you can see it's clearly marked there. We can see the sensitivity as well under the padlock in the top left. But again, I think when you combine meeting templates and also sensitivity labels, it's a very powerful combination.
So just on that, Luke, what about licensing?
Oh, good point, actually. So before I go to that next one, let's talk about that. So I'm pretty sure for this to work, you need the E5 is the important thing. So you need the full fat E5 to actually make use of this. So thank you, Zoe. I completely forgot about that kind of gotcha. You need the E5 for this to work properly is the one. And
yeah, it's worth noting as well that if an organization's using default labeling, it's really important that the default label type for a meeting is set to none, because if you start to apply default labeling to meeting, you'll cause all kinds of problems with your meetings.
I think they said that the support is coming for that, but it's not quite there just yet, is the one. Now, I think just to add to that, one of the other key things there that I didn't actually talk about, and it's just here on here, is in the chat settings towards the bottom. You can see there's another one called prevent copying chat to clipboard. So we can stop basically people copying and pasting content out of meetings based on the sensitivity label, which just blows my mind, is really the important thing. So you can see here the demo. Again, we've applied a sensitivity label. You're unable to copy content out of it is the one. Now, my understanding is that this is it's not there for external guests just at the moment, but it is on the way. It's planning to come in is the important thing. So yeah, you can't copy data out of a chat, which is awesome. So again, another layer of protection with security, you know, is layered typically, and yeah, here's just another one to add to the arsenal is the important thing.
All right, so next up, we're going to look at some of the advanced webinars capabilities, and I'm going to whistle through this, and then we'll look at the advanced virtual visits capabilities as well. So we were laughing at the start of this that, you know, this is a Teams presentation and we're doing this in GoToWebinar. You know, Luke and I, we've done loads of webinars using some of the Teams capabilities, and some of it was just stubbornness really with, you know, wanting to use the product that we were talking to everybody about and implementing for clients. But one of the things that's really pleasing for me to see is that Microsoft are putting a lot of effort into maturing the work that they're doing with webinars. And this includes things like advanced registration, virtual green room, being able to manage what attendees can see, and then the Microsoft Content Delivery Network for Teams live events as well, to be able to reduce that load on corporate network. So starting then with the advanced registration capabilities, what we can see on screen is the setup screen that a webinar organizer will see when they start planning the webinar. And we've got a lot more options in here than we have in the current or the standard webinar capability. Some of the features that are included are things like a registration waitlist, manual approval, custom registration of start and end times, and you know, with things like the waitlist approval, if you've got a webinar with a capacity for 50 people and that's full, if you enable a waitlist, that's actually going to keep that registration open even though even though the event has reached its capacity, so the organizer can start to get a sense of how in demand that is and actually scale that up, or, you know, capture the details of people who are registering to be added on to future events. And if one of the existing attendees drops out, then someone on the waitlist will automatically move in to take that space as well. You can also customify things like, you know, the registration start and end time. So, you know, not the event start and end time, but actually when do you want people to be able to start registering for this event? When do you want that registration to close so that you've got a lead time before the event to kind of do all the planning and management? And there's, you know, there's kind of, from here you can do things like manage apps as well. So Luke talked at the start about things like the apps you get in Team, being able to add kind of meeting apps in to make it more engaging is super powerful as well. You can capture things like the presenter bios. You can use things like the theming. You've got these, you know, these are the additional registration capabilities that I talked about with, you know, the registration waitlist. And then you can actually manage the attendees as well. So you could turn on things like approval, so someone can register and then you actually approve them to be accepted. You can reject people as well. And that's, well, no, it's quite an interesting scenario though, because when we used to do webinars together, you know, sometimes we'd get people registering from competitors, and because of the way that the registration process was handled, these people would just come through. So being able to actually review who your attendees are and reject them as well, I think is quite helpful. So so that's all great. You know, that's kind of how you set up and kick off that webinar process. My understanding is as well that there are integrations that might be coming from a marketing perspective as well, which I think is a big gap at the moment. And I think I've seen like Dynamics integration talked about before. If we move on then to the virtual green room, so if you think about when you do physical events, you know, broadcast TV, that kind of thing, they have the green room for people who are presenting to wait in. If you've used Teams live events, you know, this concept was there as well, where you have kind of the separate area in the meeting for, you know, the hosts and the presenters, separate from the attendees. And for Teams Premium, licensed users, this capability is coming into webinars in Teams as well. So the ability to gather with the host and presenters in the green room before the meeting starts, being able to manage and control all of that behind the scenes action, being able to control kind of, what screen's presented, what content goes through, and from an attendee perspective, as they're waiting, they actually get a welcome screen. So if you just skip forward, Luke, from an attendee perspective, I'm not aware of all of that stuff that's happening in the green room. I can only see the attendee experience. And as with live events, you can turn on things like Q&A. You've got chat that you can turn on or off as well. Attendees are restricted from being able to turn on their video and audio. So what else can we do? We can also control what attendees can see. If you think about, you've got this meeting here with me and Luke. Maybe actually we only want to see one person. So, with this capability, you can actually park some of your presenters and their cameras off the side of the screen and bring them onto the screen when you want them to be visible, so that the focus is really clearly on the one person or the two people or however many who are speaking. And the same with the content as well. So it keeps the focus on the person who you want the focus to be on, rather than being distracted by all of the other people who might have something to contribute during this presentation. And then lastly, we've got the Microsoft Enterprise Content Delivery Network. If you think about big organizations where they're doing things like all hands meetings, town halls, live streams, org-wide training, and anything like this where you've got a large proportion of the organization joining a call at the same time. If a lot of these people are in the office or connectors to the corporate network, this can put a huge amount of strain on the bandwidth. So using the eCDN changes the way that this content is distributed to the people attending the meeting. And it uses browser-based technology. There's no installation required. And the way that it passes the network around, the connection around, allows each viewer to strengthen the network for additional viewers. So it's drastically decreasing the load on the corporate network and giving the viewers a much higher quality experience.
Cool.
Is that your cat in the background, Luke?
You can actually hear her, can you? She's just come up now at this moment. She's just below on the floor trying to get some attention, unfortunately.
Okay, so this is the last set of features. We did say at the start there was quite a lot to get through. This is the last set of features, which is the advanced virtual appointments. And this includes things like being able to manage the virtual appointments, a custom waiting room for the patients, or whatever type of appointment attendee you've got, SMS notifications to remind people that they've got an appointment and help them join it more easily, and then some usage and analytics reports as well. So if we move forward, what you can see in this first image is an app that's providing a dashboard with a quick view into the schedules of the people that you've got in that booking system. So in this scenario here, there are people who are doing things like kitchen planning consultations, materials overviews, bathroom consults, that kind of house fitting work. This is really good for things like health and social care as well. So doctor's appointments, social care appointments, mental health appointments, that kind of thing. So anything where you want that virtual appointment. And this is giving you a really easy way to see kind of, who you've got waiting for on demand, who's scheduled, whether they're waiting in the lobby yet. You've got some which have got the join link where it's showing that that it's ready to be connected to. It's showing you if some of the appointments are late as well, and who's the person assigned to each of those. So that gives you that really good overview.
And that's the kind of queue. And I think one of the things that I would call out briefly is, if you can see along the top of Teams, you can see the little diamond at the top on the tabs where it's actually a premium feature, is what they've called out here.
Yeah. Then we've got some analytics as well. So, for kind of leadership or, the coordinators, this is showing, the usage of virtual appointments over the last specific date range. And then if we move forward again, we've got another dashboard view, which is showing a very high level how many you've got in the queue, how many no-shows you've got, how many appointments have started, how many have not started yet. It's giving you the ability to be able to connect a calendar. So, you know, you've got a new person starting who's a salesperson or a doctor or whatever that type of resource might be who you want to connect in. And that then starts the process of adding them into that booking system.
I think the other really interesting thing is it's integrated with bookings, isn't it? Is that the case? Which seems really cool.
Yeah, so it's using some of the bookings capability, and I think I'm not going to say for certain, but I think it's possible to connect this with you know, with other systems as well. If we move on then, so from an attendee perspective, you know, I'm a member of the public. I want to find out how much it's going to cost to get a new kitchen. I get an SMS that tells me that it's time for my meeting. I've got this little waiting room experience where I can test my video and my mic, and then they can pull me into that appointment at the right time. And then the last slide just shows you an overview of you know, what that SMS experience and that join experience looks like. And for me, this is great because it takes away the headache of you know, members of the public who are not tech literate having to have Teams downloaded just to be able to talk to their doctor or something like that.
Oh, sorry, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, look, I'm conscious we've just got a couple of very quick slides, but I do want to leave time for the SysKit demo as well at the end.
Indeed. So we'll keep it brief. You'll have to bear with us. This is really our first time running over the content. There is a lot of functionality in Teams Premium, is what I would say. And, you know, with all that functionality that's available, what can you do to better prepare? And me and Zoe had a quick stab of kind of what we would think you'd do. So first and foremost, you should have Microsoft Teams. That's kind of a given, but you really want it deployed and adopted is the important thing. The next thing, and I think, you know, some of these features and functionality are very specific in terms of users and use case. So we come to it on the next one about, you know, who might use this. But I think certainly for like the end-to-end encryption stuff, for like watermarking, the virtual appointments, it's really who is going to use this technology and what are your use cases. Licensing, it's a separate add-on is the important thing at the moment. It's $7 a month until June 2020 or June 2023. After that, it's $10 per user per month. And I think the other important thing that we shouldn't kind of discount is that you really need to configure this stuff. So the meeting templates, the sensitivity labels, they're not just going to implement themselves, as it were. You know, it needs to be customized and configured for your organization is the important thing. Who benefits from Teams Premium? I think we kind of listed about, this is dialing back to the users and use cases, what we thought in terms of this. So Zoe, probably the marketing communications one, branding and customization, getting that corporate company or corporate culture and branding out there. And also the advanced webinar capabilities would be very helpful for the marketing communications teams. Highly regulated industries, that's really going to be that secure your meetings better is the thing. So the sensitive labels, the watermarking, who can record, who can't record. I think those are ideal for the highly regulated industries is the important thing. And the other one, which I really didn't know too much about until today, was the B2C, the virtual appointments really, and, you know, virtual visits. So like Zoe said, doctor visits, they had the home repairs one here, but that one is really quite powerful in that terms of scenario. And that was it for today. So I appreciate, I flew through the last two slides, but we did want to give some time back for the SysKit guys. So we just wanted to say thanks a lot for listening. We'll stick around for any questions. Would love to hear if anyone's actually got their hands on it, actually playing with it, and see what you think.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Zoe and Luke. This was an awesome presentation. So yeah, remember everyone, if you have any questions for our presenters, submit them for our Q&A session a bit later on. Don't be shy. But before that, we are going to turn things over to SysKit Customer Success Manager, Carlo, for a quick demo on how SysKit Point can help you keep control over your Microsoft Teams to continuously protect sensitive data, review internal, external user activities, and much more. Carlo, are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you, Patrick. Let me just share my screen. So first of all, I would like to thank both Luke and Zoe for wonderful, wonderful content, very relevant content. And today I'm going to try to take some of the things that they talked about and transfer them into SysKit Point and see how, as you're fortifying that use of Microsoft Teams, how in the background you can keep control in terms of your entire tenant beyond just Microsoft Teams. So just as a reminder, Syscopoint is an integrated, scalable platform that makes M365 end-to-end management and governance easier for you, but also for your business users, right? It provides you with an entire tenant's centralized inventory, which we will see in a second. On top of that, it allows you insight into how exposed your tenant is, right? By helping you understand different types of access and sharing, both with internal, but more importantly with external users. Additionally, its capabilities of scheduled reporting, automatically sent, and alerting features will allow you to stay on top of any potentially malicious activity that you might want to look into, right? And finally, through our automated governance, we empower you to delegate the relevant portions of tenant governance directly to your business users, right? To your business owners, hopefully resulting in freeing up time for your admins and making more informed decisions regarding this governance as an organization. So without further ado, I'm just going to switch my screen directly to the dashboard. So this is an example of that insight into your centralized inventory, right? We can see exactly that right here we have a breakdown of 46 Microsoft Teams, M365 groups, standalone SharePoint sites. We can see a similar breakdown on the users front, but it's important to mention in this report and many others in Syscopoint that they're not just static snapshots, right? They are real-time reports, also providing you often with this actionable additional intelligence, right? So for example, here, out of all of these resources that I have, I can see that 81 of them are inactive, which is already prompting me to look into it and take some actions, right? In terms of external collaboration, I know that this topic is very, very important to many of you. So for example, these 39 sites with external sharing, I can immediately dive into this, right? So these are all reports that allow you a deeper dive into all of these data points. Now, notice here that we are already in those externally shared sites that are in some capacity exposed outside, right? Today, we want to focus on Teams. So in this top inventory, I can use this as a filter and just focus on my Teams, right? Luke was mentioning kind of this extension to the sensitivity labels, right? So let's imagine that I want to look into what is exactly externally shared in some of these confidential sites, right? That I have already pre-labeled as confidential, right? As soon as I get that, as I filter it in one of these columns that you can add or expand, I immediately get a relevant list of all of the teams that are externally exposed in some way. In bulk or individually, I can select them and then generate either perform actions or generate one of these go-to reports, right? So here I want to probably generate our staple report, which is the permissions matrix, and get an insight of who has access to what in these teams, right? Down to the file level. So here in the QA team, if I expand on a document library, get to some example, I can see that, okay, in this document, I have a couple of sharing ways, right? I have an anonymous link generated, and I have another specific link generated sharing this content outside of my tenant, right? Directly, once again, out of this report, you can select, for example, this anonymous link and right here remove it. So once again, it's not just an informative snapshot, but really it allows you to directly take action. Okay, one quick final thing is here in a dedicated singled out Microsoft Teams and Groups report, we can additionally focus on M365 groups, teams, and security groups, right? Here in these pre-created filters, maybe I want to focus on one of these. So for example, I want to filter out today only the teams with shared channels. That's that extra risky, extra sensitive area of some sort of sharing externally. And immediately through 2 clicks, I already have all of my teams with shared channels, as you can see. I can either check them here and perform one of those actions, or maybe even drill down even deeper into these and find out more, right? Whether it's about membership, internal or external, or maybe focusing on this channel, right? So let's find that shared channel, dive into it even deeper, and generate potentially a permissions matrix also here to find out, okay, what am I sharing externally through the context of this shared channel, right? So once again, here, I can see on this document, I have an anonymous link that I can immediately eliminate, right? So in addition to these cleanup actions, some of these governance actions that we've seen, SysKit also allows you, more importantly, to automate a lot of this governance, to delegate big portions, big chunks of this work to your team, to those site owners, team owners that are the most relevant sources of information, right? Making these decisions. If you have any questions, let us know. But more importantly, try out our 21-day free trial that's available on our web. But before you go, we want to hear those questions for Luke and Zoe. So Patrick, back to you if we have any of those questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Carlo, for another excellent presentation. Now it's time for the Q&A session. So I know we are on the hour mark, but yeah, just wanted to double check with you, Zoe and Luke, if you are okay to answer those questions.
Yeah, let's have at it, is what I would say.
Yeah, all right, great. So, all right, I will start from the top as the first question came in. So this was through the presentation when you were showing the Teams meeting. So John Donovan, so thanks for the question. He is asking, basically putting a scenario here when he creates a new meeting in Teams calendar. He's asking why does it not give him the option to add a Teams meeting call to the meeting as it can be done in Outlook?
So I think if you're creating a meeting in Teams, it's assuming that you want a Teams meeting, whereas if you're creating it in Outlook, you've got the opposite. You've got the opportunity to say, I don't want this to. You've got the don't host online button, haven't you? Because by default now it puts a Teams meeting, the call info into every meeting that you create. So I think I don't think that's anything to do with Teams Premium. I think that's just if you're creating it in Teams, it thinks you want a Teams call.
Okay, thanks, Zoe. All right, next question from Tara. So thank you for the question. She asked, can we still use GP to push backgrounds though?
Yeah, so I'll tackle that one. I'm pretty sure you can use group policy, yeah, as a workaround. I think the T's and C's around that is that it's going to be on managed devices is probably the most important thing. It wouldn't work for your BYOD, so that's really the differentiating factor between those. So yes, long may it continue. As long as you land it in the right directory, I'm pretty sure it'll still work unless they decide to get rid of it. I don't see a problem with that because user-controlled backgrounds are going to persist, so I don't see it going away. You should be covered with that one. So carry on. Yeah, it's just it's not as slick, really, is the main thing. It's not for all devices.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much, Luke. All right, the next one is from Chris. To take advantage of the Teams backgrounds, who needs to have a premium license? An admin to be able to set the backgrounds up, or all users who want to use the custom background?
My gut feeling, Zoe, if you know the answer, then please feel free to step in. But my feeling is if the answer results in you paying Microsoft more money, then that's probably going to be the answer. So my feeling is that everyone that's going to make use of it, I would love for it to be the admin, but my gut feeling is, and we can figure it out or whatever. You can ping me on LinkedIn. I can give you the answer as the one. But my gut feeling is that everyone's going to need the license.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, if you think through the process logically, you've got an admin who goes to put the setting in the admin center, and they'll say, we've got these 5 backgrounds that we want to use. Those 5 backgrounds are only going to appear for me if I've got a Teams Premium license.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've actually just gone and confirmed. So I was right. Yeah, so you do need, so you need to basically be licensed for them to appear as the thing. So here you go. The custom backgrounds will only be available for users within your organization who have a Teams premium license to use. So hopefully that will be the answer.
Okay, great. Thank you, Luke.
And
all right, the next one. Yeah.
Sorry for next one.
Next one is from Chris Cox. So thank you for the question. Is AI generated chapters poorly taken on PPT slides? I thought I had read that it also created from subject content generally in the meeting from audio.
I think there's a few points that I understand. So one is the slides that you'll see on screen and the text there. I think the other one that I understand is probably the transcripted text is the important thing. So the audio of the meeting, it's going to transcribe and then use that to generate, because it's a text-based model. I'm pretty sure this is how it's going to work. Zoe, I don't know if you've got any more on that, but that's how I think it hangs together.
I think you're right there, Luke.
Yeah, so I don't know if it has. Yeah, I don't think it's the interesting one for me is when they want to step up a notch, because sure, I'm talking, but I could be angry or I could be laughing. Yeah, I don't know if it'll really get the context there short of me saying the actual words. So that is an element that remains to be seen.
Okay, thanks for that. So another question from Gaurav Kumra. So to use sensitive label for meetings, he just want to confirm, we will need the Teams Premium with E5, or will just E5 work with this?
No, you need the Teams Premium, unfortunately. So you can use the sensitivity labels on a team, yeah, for like but for me, so Teams you can have, that's fine. It's the meetings that you need the Teams Premium for. So you can use sensitivity labels across your documents, emails, your sites, your groups, and your actual teams. But when it comes to meetings, that's where Teams Premium is required.
Okay, thanks, Luke. Have a few more. Can they? So Annette asked, can also be stop the print screen to prevent copying chat details out of the meeting?
I don't actually know the answer on that one. I know there's ways and means, certainly in AVD, if you're doing it that way, but I don't know if Teams Premium is going to stop that. Print screen one is the thing. The thing that even then, if you print screened it, I'm pretty sure it's still going to be left with the watermark if you enable that feature. And also the other key one that I always think about when we're talking about print screen is I could just take my phone out and take a photo, and that's really what the watermark is there to prevent against, is the important thing. So I don't know is the honest answer about the print screen, but I think watermark is the answer. Either way that you slice it is the important thing.
Okay, thanks for that, Luke. So next question is from Dennis. So will Premium fully support notification from multiple organizations? As an external consultant, I now have to choose between being logged in to my customers' organizations or my own.
So I'm let me shoot. I'm an independent consultant, so I know the pain is the first thing I would say. I probably have upwards of about 30 logins, so I know the trouble of switching. Now, I think what I would say is, sorry, what about the I know that tenant switching at the moment is painful, but what about the new Teams 2.0 that they've released?
Yeah. So new Teams, I think, it addresses the challenges around logging in and managing notifications and things like that across multiple tenants. I'm not clear on whether all of these features in Teams Premium work with new Teams yet. And just to give you an example, I've got the little Teams like Presenter Plus that's integrated with the Teams meeting. That doesn't work with meetings in new Teams. So there's a bit of a trade-off, between kind of what's giving you the most pain, really. And it may be that if you're using new Teams and you're licensed for Teams Premium, you might have issues with things not working properly yet.
So yeah, certainly my answer to you would be go try new Teams, because I've got it up in front of me, and they basically, many customer organizations span multiple tenants and accounts. Basically the scenario that we're talking about, they made a major investment in supporting these scenarios, synchronization, authentication, notification systems. So it shouldn't really matter which tenant you're in, you should still get those notifications, so you don't have to keep swapping in and out, which is the nice thing. So I would go check out Teams 2.0.
Okay, thanks, Zoe. Thank you, Luke. Just, I think 4 more questions. If I think we'll be okay in the next couple of minutes. So there is a question from Hira George. Is Q&A report available in Teams Premium?
Q&A.
The Q&A, so Q&A as a feature is something that you can add on to standard webinars. You can add it onto the advanced webinars. So all of that Q&A capability, I think, will just be the same, really.
Okay, thanks for that, Zoe. Next question from Dennis. Can you block file from leaving your organizations or being uploaded to Teams altogether?
So that's a good one. I think that's not specific to Teams, but there's a few different technologies I would typically make use of to stop files. One was files being downloaded was one. I mean, it's not so much the way that we kind of look at it is probably protect the document with a sensitivity label, and we can basically apply, internal only or something like that, and it doesn't matter what happens to the document. So that's one approach. It doesn't matter where the document goes. It's got that tag or that sensitivity label applied to it. So what that means is, I can copy it to a USB stick, I can send it to someone around the world, but it's tied to the specific identities that you assign to it, which means I could pass it to Zoe, and as long as it's encrypted to me, she's never going to be able to open it. So I don't worry too much on that. But if you did want to stop that download scenario, there's a few different other layers of security that we typically use from the Microsoft stack. One that I would typically look at, and it's an E5 one, is Defender. It's Defender for Endpoint DLP. So you can stop sensitive documents or documents that meet certain criteria from being, copied to a network share, copied to over remote desktop, printed. You can stop them being copied to USB. Other ones that I would typically refer to, and sorry for the long-winded answer here, but there is a number of different ways. If it's an insider risk one where you are going to download and exfiltrate company data, we can use insider risk. Again, an E5 one, it's a compliance one, but we can watch it monitors employee activity for suspicious behavior, and if I'm leaving in 4 weeks and I download a whole bunch of files, it will flag that and let me know. And I think the final one, in terms of upload and download, if you want to go for a next level of kind of control in Teams, I would typically go and look for Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, previously Cloud App Security. It's a CASB that sits, basically it's a proxy that looks at session level control to control exactly what a user can do. So whether if they're on a BYOD scenario device, do I allow them to download a bunch of files? And that's probably the real granular control that you might be looking for. So apologies, that's a shotgun answer. There's about 5 different things I would probably look at configuring for your specific scenario. Depends what's available in your license, but those are the kind of security features I would typically look at. I would probably start, if I was doing anything, I'd probably look at conditional access, the Defender for Cloud Apps, and sensitivity labels are the 3 I'd probably tackle first and foremost.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Thanks, Luke. All right, so last 2 questions. Will Test Mic be available in the mobile app now?
You got me there. I really, I don't
know.
No
idea.
No idea. Apologies. I don't know.
Okay. Thanks, Zoe. Thank you, Luke. And the last one, watermarking is only available to add the user's name. Do you know if Microsoft is going to allow for custom watermarking where you can specify your company name, for example, instead of a user's name?
So it's actually the email address that it uses. So that it's gonna have like at company name in there, which should tell you who it is. I think their view though is that if you're presenting something where you need a watermark and you don't want people to leak it, it's actually better to know the individual who's leaking it rather than watermarking it with your own company or something you own. I think it's I kind of get where you're coming from a branding perspective, but I think it's more about knowing who was responsible for the leak and discouraging people from sharing information that they shouldn't be.
So to me, it's more about a piece of personally identifiable information, because if you want to leak it, it just says, CodeLux, or it says Syskit, or, the company's name. It's not really going to be that useful in tracking down who's actually done it. So I think the design decision from Microsoft at the moment is that it basically is probably the UPN or the email. And that allows you to go kind of work backwards and pick them out is the one.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Zoe. Thank you, Luke. We just got the another one. Is okay for you?
By all means, please feel free.
All right, thanks. So came a question from Tara. Thank you very much for the question. On security, if I have E3 licenses but added on enterprise mobility and security and have Teams Premium, will I have all the security options seen today?
You know what? When I read the T's and C's and the kind of gotchas, it specified E5 specifically. Now, I don't know if EMS E5 would meet that criteria. I don't know if the specific license. If you want to ping me on LinkedIn, we can have a chat and I'll see if I can figure it out. But for me, it said E5 in the T's and C's. I'm not sure if it's a very specific element of E5 that's after. I'm not entirely sure. You have to forgive me. I don't know if EMS E5 would meet the prereqs.
Okay. All right. So that's from the Q&A. So thank you very much who submitted your question. Also, thank you, Zoe and Luke, for answering and for staying with us a bit longer. So yeah, any final words, Zoe and Luke, before we wrap up?
Just thank you. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no, thanks a ton. I had a blast. Always fun to present with Zoe. It's SysKit, guys. The tool that you showed, a lot of those common scenarios I saw that are problematic. So yeah, have a look, and thanks for having us.
Okay, thanks, Zoe. Thank you, Luke. All right, so once again, thank you all for joining us on today's webinar. As mentioned, everyone who registered to this event will receive a recording of the webinar. So if you have any further questions regarding SysKit Point or any of our products, please reach out to us at sales@syskit.com. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.